Um, I just noticed that my sound might have not have been working, but I hope I fixed that now. No sound. Yep, I got it. Thank you. We just joined a chess scrimmage, the first one between Hartford and Bridgeport Libraries. There's 6 young players from Hartford and 6 or maybe 7, I'm not sure, depends. I'll find out soon. Who are playing each other in a Scheveningen system. Now you might say, what is Scheveningen? Well, if you see the word, you would say Scheveningen. But if you're from the Netherlands, where the Dutch seasort city of Scheveningen is, you would say Scheveningen. There's a nice trick. If you want to know if someone is actually Dutch or not, you ask them to pronounce the word of that, the name of that seasort resort, and if they can't, then you know they're not Dutch, because only Dutch people can do that. So they're playing a Scheveningen system where each player of each team plays one game against each player of the other team. And at the end, we'll add up all the scores and we'll find out which team has won. So it looks like Bridgeport got off to a good start because, well, hold on, he actually already had a chance for the mate, but he missed it. Attacked the bishop. The bishop took, the knight took, and now he did see it. So Bridgeport got off to a good start and won the first game. Let's see, which other games can I find? I'm just going to click on all of them to see what we have. And then we'll pick one to take a look at. It looks like... alright, let's take a look at this one. This is a game between Esteban Kotla and Nighttime 03. Esteban Kotla is from Bridgeport. Nighttime 03 is from Hartford. Nighttime 03 has won each Sunday. The players from Hartford play a tournament. They get up to 4 chess classes a week. And then on Sundays they play a tournament. Nighttime 03 has won 2 out of 4 tournaments thus far. And he was in the final of 1 more. So he is now considered to be one of the best players of the team. And let's see if he can bring this one home. So far it's looking good for Black. For Hartford in this game, Black is up. Let's see, he's up a rook and a bishop. White has 1 more pawn. So Black is up 7 points, which should usually be enough to win. And he's also using his piece as well to attack. I would like to bring this rook to the open file and add that piece to attack as well. Nighttime is now using these 3 to go after the king. That's not going to be so easy to create a checkmating net. He's trying hard. You see he's using the coordination of these pieces to go after the king. But you might need a bit more firepower to get that king checkmated. I'm not quite seeing yet a checkmate. Well, I see one like 4 moves away, but I think Black should really try to get his rook involved, and he does that. Maybe he can come down and try to go at the king like that. Alright, White is maybe getting a little desperate, moving that pawn up, and who knows, will he make it to the other side? We will see. Aha. This is, I predict, this is what he wants to do. And he does. The king still has a safe square and there's still not a checkmate. And to make that work is not that easy. The king is in great danger, but there's not a checkmate yet. Maybe Black should just capture this bishop. Try to come back and checkmate after that. Maybe he can move his pawn to a5, protect his rook, and then he has bishop b2 checkmate as well. He has 5 minutes, which should be enough. And he decided, well, let me just take this pawn away. And actually, there's a checkmate. Will he find it? What do you think? Alright, he does not. He Attacks the rook, the bishop with his rook. The checkmate is still on the board. Now there's really only one way to defend. Let's bring the rook over to this square. And now maybe he's forcing black into finding it. If black sees that the rook is protected and the bishop can move away from the rook, then he gets a checkmate. And with that, it looks like the score is 1-all. I'm not sure if they already updated the scores. Not yet. Let me ask the tournament director to keep track of that. And let's go to another game. Well, who else do we have? We have Jazian from Hartford with white playing against Bindaboy. If I'm not mistaken, Bindaboy might be Bridgeport's best player on the team. And, well, it seems like he's doing pretty well. I count an extra rook, 2 bishops, and 1 pawn more for black. So that's a good 12 points. That is a massive amount of points. Now white still has the queen and he just brought his rook up. Maybe the rook wants to swing over. Maybe he can try something against that black king. Well, if black defends well, that should not really work, but it's really his only choice. Black attacks the knight and white does not move the knight away, which means that black will probably take it, or maybe he'll take the rook. Okay, he takes the knight. Yeah, I don't see how white is going to survive this much longer. The pawn can actually just promote to a queen in 2 turns now. When a pawn moves like that and attacks the knight, there's 2 threats: taking the knight and moving on to get a queen. And white cannot defend against both at the same time. So black will get a queen on the next turn. His king is not checkmated yet. It can escape to this square. But once the rook joins and forms a battery along the first rank, things will soon be over. So I'm expecting Bindaboy to take this one home. Let's see if we have someone else up on here. Let's look at Davian from Hartford against White Zool from Bridgeport. Well, white is up a lot of material. Queen, 2 knights, rook, bishop. So he is in very good shape. There is one danger, and that is the danger of stalemate. Black does actually quite well, either losing everything he has or making sure they cannot move anymore. Because when only the king can move, the chance of a stalemate goes way up. Especially with all these pieces. It's very easy. It's as easy to get the king trapped, so it cannot move while it's not in check, which is a stalemate, which means the game is a tie or a draw, as it is to checkmate that king. When you update everything and black has nothing, or your opponent has nothing left, the best thing to do usually is to try to check every single turn. Once you start assaulting for the final stretch. Well, for now white is just saying, let me get another queen, which increases the chances of this ending in a stalemate. Also, white is playing quite quickly, so it's not over yet. That's all I have to say about that. Black just moves his king. He should also try to just keep moving quickly. If I remember one of my greatest successes was winning the Dutch Junior Championship back in 1995. And in the final round, I was in deep trouble against the reigning champion. And I decided that I would use up all my thinking time we would have like 2 hours for the game each, and put myself in a situation where I had almost no time left, just to make my opponent nervous. And also maybe my opponent would copy me. He would also start using a lot of time, which is what he did. And the reverse also works. If you play quickly, the chances of your opponent copying your behavior and play quickly go up. So if black plays quickly, white will do it as well. Now there are probably like 10 different ways to stalemate black, because he has only a few safe squares left. The knights move in. The odds of stalemate are gigantic, as well as the odds of checkmate. As long as white would checkmate every single turn, 5 minutes, and playing this quickly is very, very dangerous. For black it doesn't matter. His life is in great danger as it is. White has everything to lose. If he just starts checking, he will checkmate the king pretty much automatically, as long as he would check. This is a very dangerous strategy. I would say the odds of a draw are as good as the odds of white checkmating, and it could happen every single turn almost. Now the king starts moving. Will black escape or not? Well, they still have 5 minutes each, so it could take that long, although at some point the black king will run into a checkmate or a stalemate. I wouldn't take that knight. Okay, now the odds of stalemate go down a little bit, not a whole lot, with 3 queens on the board. You should remember that most of these players have just learned how to play chess. The Hartford program started about a month ago. It is sponsored by the Hartford Public Library and Boundless, and DIC USA provides the chess instruction and organization of the chess tournaments. They also provide chess instruction to the Bridgeport Library. And in Hartford there are 4 classes a week, and then a tournament on Sunday. So even though these players some of them have only just learned how to move the pieces, they get exposed quite a lot to chess, and I expect that several of the players that we're looking at today will actually become the powerhouses of future Connecticut chess, because the talent is definitely there, and now there's also a lot of time spending playing chess. So it's just a matter of time. Also a matter of time before that king gets stalemated or checkmated. It's now on the other side of the board. The white king moves in, and there it is, the stalemate. It was almost inevitable. So this queen moved up, took away this escape square for the king. The other queen takes away these 2 escape squares, and the king takes away the last 2 escape squares, which leaves 1 square, h7, that the black king is on, that no white piece has attacked, which means it's not check, but black cannot make any moves anymore. And when that happens, it's a stalemate, and black escapes with a tie. I see games just keep happening in a furious pace. Let me ask what's going on. Maybe they're playing a match against each other. Aha, maybe this is this might be this. The intention is for 6 players to face off against each other, and if there would be a 7th player, they would play a match. So I'm not sure what the structure is of the tournament. Let me find out. In the meantime, we have another game going between White Zool and Davian Miranda. Whitezul is a Bridgeport player. Davian Miranda is a Hartford player. And they're off to a quick start, where the white rook is doing all the hard work, and now it will never do any work again because it got taken. Okay, while I wait for some updates on that, let me see if there's any other players. Oh, yes, but I believe this is not a Bridgeport player playing with black, so I don't think this is part of the match. How about this one? Same story here. Let me just go back to the only game I can see that is part of the match, which is this one, and to try to find out more. I'm going to mute myself briefly. I'll leave the game up. Alright, I'm back up to speed. It turns out the games were happening at a rapid pace, and the first round games have finished, and the second round games will start at 12:30. So the game that you're watching now is just a game that they're playing while they're waiting for the next official round to start. After the first round, the score is very close. Bridgeport is leading by 3.5 to 2.5. And you can also see who won and lost their games. So the way the standings will be updated is each player will you will see their accumulation of points as we go along. You cannot tell from the standings who has played who and what their results were. Let's see if I can find some game back to go over that they played. This game is just a game for fun. Let me see. Let's pick this player. And look at his game, if I can navigate that. Let's pull up a game by the Hartford player Javius. I thought I would pull up a game, but it doesn't look like he played a game. Right, I'm going to pause it. The stream will be back at 12:30 in a couple of minutes. Welcome back, everyone. The next round should start shortly. As soon as the games are starting, I will pull them up on chess.com. they are going to play their second round out of 6. They have 6 players each on their team, and they'll play one game against each other player of the team. And so each round there will be 6 points to be divided, so a total of 36 points for 6 rounds. So basically whoever gets to 18.5 first wins the match. So far Bridgeport won the first round with 3.5 against 2.5, and they'll now all play another player from the other team. And I think they are off. Let me see. Yes. This is Javius from Hartford with white against Dodonoghue with black. And I can see that it was a good decision of me to have a lesson about defending against the attack on f2 and f7, but it's always difficult to do that when it happens to you in a game. And here Dodonoghue is trying exactly that. After just 2 moves, he moves his queen out to attack this pawn and attack this pawn. Now one of them still has protection, namely the one on f2, but the one on e4 does not. So now white is safe here, and he can try to defend this pawn, for example bringing out the knight. Instead he defended against this attack, but this allows the queens to come in and then also attack the rook in the corner together with the king on e1, which means that white is going to lose that rook. And there it goes, attacking this knight. The queen moves over to defend the knight, and the pawn takes the queen. And now white's king is safe, but he has lost a rook and a pawn in the process. He needs to try to get his pieces as active as possible quickly and start some sort of a attack on black's position. Knight f3 is a good move, attacking the queen. The queen moves away, attacking the knight. The knight moves away from that attack. The bishop joins the queen on the attack on the knight. White is still under a lot of pressure, and it's not going to be very easy to get away from that. He tries to attack the queen, but now this allows the queen to capture the knight. He takes the pawn instead, gives this knight another lifeline. Not that it has many good squares, in fact I think there's only one. And he does find it. Maybe the knight can reroute, come to the middle, attack the queen. What I would like to see for white is some knight landing on one of these squares and attack this pawn on c7. That would start putting some pressure on black's position. And for now black has won a lot of points with his queen rampage. And if white managed to get his pieces active, maybe he can do something back. It's a good move. Knight to e3. Attacks the queen. The queen should move to safety. Let's see if I can find some other games. The queen moves away. Pins the knight. Now it gives white a chance to bring out the other knight. Or the pawn. Attack the queen again. So white has taken over a little bit of the initiative, meaning he is now the aggressor and black is the defender. The black queen was the aggressor, captured a rook and 2 pawns on the king's side of the board, which is the side where the kings reside. And now white is trying to get some play going as well. Let's look at another game. This is Nighttime of Hartford playing against G-Bear 931 of Bridgeport. And the game got off to a pretty good start. I think that it is dead even. They all have the same pieces. There's one difference. White has a light squared bishop and black has a dark squared bishop. In chess this is something we call opposite colored bishops. So this is a position with opposite colored bishops is what we would call it. Black has to be a little bit careful. And this black rook open to the open file. An open file is a file without any pawns, and is lining up with this white queen. Now the bishop is still in between, but once the bishop moves away, it opens up the attack of the black rook on the queen. So the queen is not in a great spot there. Maybe well, you should probably just move it away from that file. Not that black has a great move with this bishop, but this bishop will almost definitely move away. I can just see it coming. And white played a pretty good move. He moved his queen out to this square, forcing a queen trade. And now we're in an endgame. So an endgame basically is any position where the kings are not in great danger of just getting checkmated by the pieces that remain on the board. Usually that means that the queens have to be off the board, because the queens are pieces that can easily checkmate. Usually sometimes alone or with the help of one piece. And you can also have a queen endgame where you just have kings, queens, and maybe a couple of pawns, where the kings are relatively safe as well. Now in this position, white just had a two-fold attack with a knight and bishop on f7 and took it. But black did not recapture this knight at the end, which he could have. But the funny thing is that the knight is trapped. It has no safe squares to go to. And if black takes it now, then black restores the material balance. Black does not. Somehow capturing with the king is one of the more difficult things to see, especially when you start out playing chess. Basically, anyone who's played for, I would say, less than 1, 2, or 3 years is just starting out playing chess. And some things are more difficult to see than others. King captures are always a little tricky because you feel the king is someone who just needs to be safe and stay away from the battle. Like in real life, kings are usually the last pieces or the last soldiers, so to speak, to engage in any sort of fighting. They're often old and vulnerable and need protection. So in chess, that sometimes gives you sort of the impression that the king should do nothing. But actually, when the kings are safe in moving out into the middle of the position where they will not be able to get trapped by enemy pieces, they should become very aggressive pieces, attacking enemy pieces and or helping other pieces to attack other things. So for example, in this position, this black king will not be checkmated in the middle board by just a knight and a rook. I mean, it might be possible, but it's not going to be easy at all. So basically, white will need to try to get another queen. So what white can do with the rook and knight is try to grab as many black pawns as possible, so that white pawns will get a clear path to the other side. Whenever a pawn has a path to the other side where it will never ever meet another pawn again, it's called a passed pawn. And passed pawns are quite dangerous because if they get far enough, they will turn into a bigger piece like a queen. For example, this e pawn might be the one that wins the game for white. It has no more black pawn in front of it or on the file adjacent to it. So once it starts moving safely, it will be very difficult to stop. For example, right now, white could just decide to try to turn it into a queen. Black doesn't really have that possibility, although he still has 2 pawns left, and they are very close. That could be like tricky ideas where this pawn moves up, luring this pawn away, making the other pawn a passed pawn, trying to get it across. There it goes. Now white does finally have a mating net. If he plays king f2, he would be threatening checkmate in 1. Now this king will have to go here, and not entirely safe, but he could just take this pawn. I think white will soon have to find a way to stop this pawn. The knight is ready to move away to allow the pawn to keep going. So I'm looking at maybe a way for this knight to come back, or for the rook to come to this c file. And it will have to happen, because I don't see how black is not going to try that. There it goes. Check. Now it is still almost checkmate. If white brings the knight back, there is a checkmate. Will he see it? Uh-oh. Now the risk for white is increasing a lot. The only way to now get behind that pawn is like this. And if white does not do that, he might actually lose this game. So there's a bit of a turnaround. Black actually really cleverly got this pawn passed, and there it is, queen. It's coming out, and now the tables are turning slightly, although it's still not so easy. This king is still surrounded by enemy pieces. For example, if you can somehow get this going, it would still be a checkmate. Maybe rook check, the king has to come back. If the king protects the pawn, there are various ways of trying to checkmate the black king. Uh-oh, g3 mate, g3 mate. It's there. What a game, what a game. Black defended excellently, very, very good defense. Managed to get a queen. And then finally, white found a way for his pieces to checkmate this king. In fact, right now it's a king that protects the pawn and the escape square. The knight is protected by this pawn, and the rook takes care of these two squares. Checkmate. Very nice game. Quickly going back to Donahue, finally managed to come through. He even got one pawn across for a second queen and mate. Let's see if we have any more games going on. Yes, here we have Binda Boy from Bridgeport playing with white against Davian Miranda with black. Let's see what's happening. White has two rooks, black has a queen. White has one knight, black has two knights and a bishop. So black is up quite a bit of material. Each knight and bishop is worth 3 points. A pawn is worth 1. The rook is worth 5 and the queen is worth 9. So when I play chess, at all times, whether it's my move or my opponent's turn, or whether I'm looking ahead in a position trying to figure out what to do, at every single step I always know exactly what the material balance is, namely who is up how many points, if any. So, and the way I calculate is, well, when we start a game again of chess, the balance is 0. And then I adjust this balance of 0 every single turn that gets made, or when I think about moves to play, and I think whether something is good, I also adjust this count accordingly. So, for example, here I see both have a knight, so I don't have to look at that. It's still 0. There's 6 pawns for white and now 4 for black, so 2 more for white. I see black has 2 more pieces, that's 6, so now it's 4 more for black. 2 rooks is 10 and 1 queen is 9, so black is up 3 points. Now that's nice, but then the next question is, how do you use those points? If you're up 3 points, you want to try to use them as best as you can to make them pretty much worth their value. So right now, white's pieces are pulling their weight quite well. For example, this knight just took a pawn, so now black is only up 2. And this rook is being fairly aggressive. Now this rook can also easily join and start attacking this king. So even though white is down 2 points, I think he's using the points he has in a more effective way. He's attacking this pawn, which he might want to take. Well, actually he could take the knight with check and take that pawn. If he takes a knight, white is up 1 point. and actually would be quite a heavy favorite, because he's not only up a point, but he's also using the points he has in a more effective way. For example, this queen is nice, but if it's sitting there not doing so much, black has to be very careful. There's a check, and now there's a knight fork, which would essentially end the game. Okay, missed by white. The knight fork is still on the board, but maybe he thinks he should recapture this pawn, and he does. The knight fork is gone, but white is still in pretty good shape. There's one danger I see for white, and that's this back row. If this rook moves away from the first rank, this queen can come down and checkmate, unless of course it gets taken. Then the queen will definitely not checkmate. Okay, big trouble for black. Black is not winning this game unless it's on time, which is not possible, really, because white has 8 minutes left. And this is the only potential queen. I don't know. If it moves up, it's probably going to get taken. So I think Binda Boy will take this one. Well, black could take that one back, although when I'm almost out of all my material and my opponent has a lot, then usually my strategy changes, because the only thing you can play for is a stalemate. And a stalemate, for stalemate, I need to lose pretty much all my pieces except my king. Maybe I can keep a pawn, but I do not want them to be able to move at all. So now black's strategy should be to simply lose his pawn and his knight so that he can get stalemated. So I don't see how black is going to win this game anymore, pretty much in any scenario. But I do still see many scenarios where white stalemates black. We'll see if he manages to do that. I think it is the only game. Yes, this is the only game still going on. Let's take a quick peek at the standings. Whoa, it's very close. Bridgeport is ahead with 6-5, and this is the last game going. So, okay, I don't think Hartford's going to win this game, which means that the question is, will Bridgeport be up 1 or 2 points? Well, having said that, what can this pawn still do? This knight has to be careful now, because he really needs to aim at that square, which means he needs to go there. And he did find that move. It's a very important move, because if that knight would not be protecting this promotion square for the pawn, there would be a problem. Alright, white, now I think, okay, black gives it a try. White will probably see it. And now we are really in a situation where black is playing for a stalemate and white is playing for a checkmate. First things first is getting a queen, which white is now doing. Maybe black can try to stop that. White has a clever move where he can cut off this king over the f-file, which gives this pawn a free shot. Black can still stop it, but actually his problem is that he stops it now. But if white makes any move, basically the king has to step out in front and white can get a queen. This is called Zugzwang, which is a German word for move, have to, or have to move. Black is now in Zugzwang. The best square for the king was to block the pawn, but he has to move. And now he makes his situation worse, because now white can queen the pawn. And then it's made in 2 in various ways. Will he find promotion to queen and checkmate on the next turn? Well, it's going to be checkmate or stalemate. One of the two. Binda Boy is taking his time. That's probably a good sign, because this is a moment where you have to be very careful. He still is not sure how that of promoting the... Well, he's going to use a different method. He's going to bring the knight in and maybe then promote. That would be interesting. Alright, he still not quite there. He's very close. Will he get a queen now? He might. And then it's all checkmate or stalemate. Right, he moves up the rook. The rook is protected. black takes the knight. Actually, that makes white's chances of winning slightly higher. Well, surely now it's about time to get a queen, because soon... Okay, there he goes. Leave the queen there and get another queen. That should actually work out well. When the pawn lands and becomes a queen, it will not be stalemate. And if, as long as he just checks after he stalemates, he would win. Actually, there was a mate in 1. But okay, it was a little tricky, not that easy to see. And what he's doing should lead to a win. Again, there's a mate in 1. But he's going to get another queen. As long as he checks after he gets a queen, he should be checkmating. The next turn has to be check, I think, otherwise he might run into a stalemate. Uh-oh. Where is this king going? Still have a mate. And there it is. Okay, Binder Boy avoided stalemate, and he has given Bridgeport the lead, but how can Hartford have 6 points? 2, 4, 5, 6. And Bridgeport 7. Let me just try to find out what happened there. I would say the total has to be 12. Oh, let's take a look at the time. The time is 12:53. The next round, I think, is going to start in 7 minutes. Maybe I can find a game that one of the other players just played. Let me just pick the first one. Okay, how do I do that? Go to members and just search for Chess Club Junior. Go to his account and find that game. Let's see if you have it on the screen. I might have to adjust that. Let me being asked about the tournament for a moment. The tournament director. Just trying to figure out why it's 7-6, where I thought it had to be 12 points. Okay, we'll see for the next round how that works out. Here is a game between Esteban Kotla and Chess Club Junior. Let's see. Yes, the game is in your view. And actually, it's the first game I see where someone opens with the queen's pawn to d4. It's a pretty good move. I've played that probably like 500,000 times in my life. And probably will play it 500,000 more times in my life. And black plays e6. That's a pretty good move as well. Pawn to e3. Knight f6, b3, b5. Pretty decent game so far. Pawn to g3. White should consider moving pieces soon, because when a pawn is sitting in the starting position, it can only attack 2 squares. But when it moves up, it can still only attack 2 squares. So really, the ability of a pawn doesn't go up at all or as much when it moves. It will only go up once it gets to the other side of the board and promotes to a bigger piece, like a queen. But pieces, they can easily increase their ability, or as we say, activity. For example, this knight is sitting on the back row and it's looking at 3 squares, which is pretty good. But once you move a knight out towards the middle, the knight actually starts looking at 8 squares, which is the maximum it can ever attack or look at the same time. So basically, when a knight moves towards the center of the board, it more than doubles its ability. And that's why knights often want to move out fairly quickly in the beginning of the game to double their ability or their activity. Now, pawns, they can't really increase their ability when they move, because they'll still be attacking only 2 squares at the same time. And the other thing is, when a pawn moves up, it can never move back again. So, for example, these 2 squares will never ever be protected by a white pawn again for the rest of the game. Which might mean something, maybe it means nothing. But it's always something to keep in mind. Pawns can never move back. So I like the setup of the pawns, the structure of the pawns, but now the pieces have to move into place. Black moves with check, white blocks with a pawn, which is pretty good, and the pawn is protected, so black should actually move the bishop back. I would move it back over here. Black takes it and white recaptures. Attacks this pawn, and black moves the knight to the middle, attacks this knight, and white trades. Maybe white could have taken the pawn, but trade is fine as well. And now attacks black's pawn with this pawn, even though he already had something on it. Black defends, white takes, and now black can actually not really take back, because this rook opens up to the black rook. So when a file has pawns of both sides, we call it a closed file. I see the stream is lagging a little bit. Maybe it's getting better. So when a file is closed, there's pawns of both colors on that file. When a file only has pawns of one color, one or more, it's called half open. This is a half open file for white. And when it completely, all the pawns disappear from a file, it's called an open file. And rooks really like open files, because then they can do stuff like that, which is bad news for the black rook. Now this rook also wants to take the knight, but didn't get the chance. And the rook, although it's attacking this bishop, should not take that bishop, because black has protection. The bishop is worth 3, the rook is worth 5. So white did take it, but then lost a few points in the exchange. Let me take a quick peek. They should be starting pretty soon. Not yet. So let's look at a few more moves. White took this pawn. That was pretty good. The knight has protection, so it doesn't really have to move. Moved away. The queen moved out. Okay, I should go back to the tournament, to the match, because it should start pretty soon. I'll have to adjust my screen. Bear with me with that. because the layout on chess.com changes between live chess and game analysis. Okay, looks like I'm ready for that. Let's see if games have started. Not yet. Let's take a look at the chat. Well, these players are, well, a lot of them are new to chess. Not all of them. I know many of the Bridgeport players have been playing for quite a while. I am pretty new to live streaming or chatting during a live stream. So I see a lot of chats saying, let's go Bridgeport, go Bridgeport, go Hartford. Okay, Hartford and Bridgeport, yes. It's so far a very close match where Bridgeport is leading by 7-5 after 2 rounds. We still have many rounds to go, so anything can change at any time. Let's see if some games have started. Yes. Let me first pull up all the games before I pick one to look at. Any more? Okay, are there any players we have not really? We looked at a Y2 game, G-Bear, Chavius, Binderboy you've seen as well. Let's take a look at Lucky 234 is not a player of Bridgeport, so that's not part of this match, I believe. Or is it Lucky 9? Oh, I'm guessing that Lucky 9894 actually is Lucky 2334. So maybe we should look at this game. What have these players so far? Lucky won both his games. And Chess Club Junior has half a point out of 2 games. Okay. To start out, I actually really like the position. Lucky is playing an opening I have played for most of my life. An opening is sort of like a setup, how you put your pieces in the beginning of the game. And I really like this setup for white. And Chess Club Junior is using a pretty good setup as well, with one exception. I really like this bishop to be on e7. And well, there was a problem. On a5 it got trapped. Pretty good move by white. It had been in existence already. Actually, the moment black played pawn to b6, it took away the escape for the bishop. And at this moment, white had a chance to win that bishop. And he probably should have. I see that he first wanted safety for his king and his bishop. Oh, actually, I see that he moved his bishop to a square where the knight had it under attack. Both players missed that for quite a while. And after b6, Lucky spotted it, moved his bishop to safety, and then thought, uh-oh, I already missed that bishop being under attack for so many moves. Let me get that king safe as well. And then he trapped the black bishop with a pawn. It's a very typical trap where 2 pawns protecting each other and trapping a bishop, winning 2 points. And it seems like losing 2 points panicked black a little bit, because he moved the knight out to a square where a pawn can take it. And after a few more trades, the dust settled, and white is up a bishop and knight for a pawn, which is 5 points, which is pretty good. His king seems to be safe, but actually is a bit of a tricky move for black. Black already has 1 attack on this g-pawn, and he could try to use his queen to attack it as well. 2 different ways, and both ways he would actually attack the white bishop as well at the same time. Now, white still would have a defense. If the queen moves here, the knight can move out, block the battery and guard the bishop. The queen moves out here. The bishop could draw back and block the queen. So it was still okay for white. Now he moves the bishop back. I might still be tempted to just give it a try, line them up, see what is what. But rook c8 is a good move. This is a file without pawns and a file rook should go to, and white does the exact same thing. This is good strategy by both. There's a trade, and now the bishop goes to d5. I actually like that as well. He's attacking this pawn. White moves this pawn away from the attack. And the problem when you don't have that many pieces is, well, there's less to do. And what should black really do here? It's not that easy. I might be looking at forming another battery here. White plays pawn to a6, which actually is a bit of a tricky move. If white takes it, black can form the battery and attacks the bishop at the same time. Well, I would be hugely impressed if that's the intention of this move, because that is very difficult to see. But a good move. Rook d1 I really like. This d file has no pawns, it's open, therefore, and rooks like to go to open files, so that was a very good move. Pawn to e5. I'm a little nervous about this bishop being only protected by the queen on the same file as the rook. Nice thing about this pawn is that it shuts out this bishop. So let's see, bishop f3 I think is a pretty good move. I would probably have moved my knight and started pinning this bishop. Bishop f3, bishop e6, okay. Knight f1. Discovered attack on the queen, very good. Queen b8, very good. Moving away. Queen c6, moving in to attack the bishop. Bishop b3, moving away from the attack, attacking the rook. Bishop d5, I like that move. Because it pretty much guarantees that this bishop of black will disappear. Now black should take, but these backward moves and capturing to get out of check are some of the more trickier things to see in chess, and he actually missed it. And now white finally missed something as well. He could actually take the bishop first and then still take the rook next, because the rook is pinned to the king, but he took the rook first and black recaptured with the bishop. Okay, now white is up a rook and a knight for a pawn. And he goes back to safety first. When his pawn moves up, giving that king an escape square, it means that any check on the back rank will never really hurt him that much. So I see a good mix of lucky between safety and attack. And this is actually how I like to play chess as well. Usually I look at what my opponent can do to me before I look at what I can do to my opponent. If I take away all of my opponent's plans, they'll get desperate enough that soon enough I will do things to them. The bishop moves back to attack the rook. Now I see Lucky is really playing it safe. I mean, the knight is next to the king can escape. So at this point the rook should just come in and come to the 7th rank. If you can form a battery with the queen, this black king will go down pretty quickly. Now the black king will still go down, it will just take a little longer. Alright, the rook moves back to the open file for battery with the queen, good move. The bishop tries to attack the queen, but it's not protected and black loses the bishop. Tries to attack the queen and the queen moves away with check. King goes to the middle, queen comes in. Yeah, Lucky is playing a very, very strong game. Based on how he played, I would say the odds of Lucky still making the opponent are extremely low. He's playing with so much care that I think he'll be on the lookout for that. And so I think he will probably win this game. I'm curious to see how he will finish it. He will just need to get all his pieces in the attack. If he can bring the knight, for example, together with the rook, then the black king will be facing too much pressure to survive. Black is now trying to see what to do. Well, I understand, because there's really not much he can do anymore. Oh, there's a few more moves. Queen f8 was played. Queen c5, which I understand. He actually wants to trade queens. Well, in this case, he wins a queen. g5, queen c8, king f7, queen takes pawn. Okay, I don't like that move because this pawn is not going to really help at all in checkmating. White has enough points to go after the black king, which makes me a little nervous that maybe a stalemate could be on the cards. When I'm up, 9 points or 12, or in this case white is up, well, he just lost a queen, so he's up a little less, but still more than 10. I don't really want to take any more points because it just increases the chances of a stalemate, and you don't really need them. He got another queen. Now he just should move in for the kill. It's almost stalemate, except black has these 2 pawns. Otherwise, stalemate would be very close. Now it's just a mate in 1. Okay. Well, a little hiccup there at the end for Lucky, but all in all, very convincing victory. Although Chess Club Junior had some pretty nice ideas trying to fight back, it was not enough. What does that mean for the standings? I'm not sure yet. They're not updated yet with the last games. Let's see if there's any games still going. Is this a game that's part of the tournament? It might be. Knight Veto, yes. Knight Veto is Bridgeport. The True Prophet is Hartford. The True Prophet was the player that won one of the 4 tournaments, and he beat Nighttime, who has won 2 of those tournaments, all in the final. So True Prophet is one of Hartford's best players, and in this position he is doing quite well. He actually finds a very nice trick. He forks the king and rook, forcing white to take it, and now he will recapture, and he is going to be up by a knight, bishop, and a rook. White has 1 more pawn, so white is in good shape. He's going to lose his rook. Is he going? Yep, he is going to lose. Oh, almost. Well, the True Prophet won. That was a little funny end to the game. So here he played rook c8 to the open file, trying to get access to the bottom rank. And I'm sure he was thinking, go take my bishop so I checkmate. But he actually had missed that this bishop is protecting that square. But then again, luckily for the True Prophet, Knight Veto missed the same thing. And he played the only other move he could play, which is blocking with the rook. But that was checkmate. So this was probably the last game of the round. The scores are being updated as we speak. And let's wait for that. This brings us to the halfway point. Let me just ask them to change in the standings. Okay. 17. I think it should be 18, but we'll briefly wait. Let's look at another game. I think we still have some time for the next round. And let's look at Binder Boy against Jay Sean. Binder Boy plays for Bridgeport. Jay Sean 7 plays for Hartford. And King's Pawn to e4. It's a good move. King's Pawn to e5. Good move as well. Knight moves out. Increases its ability. More than doubles it. attacks the pawn in the middle, and black does the same thing. He attacks white's pawn. Now white plays a pretty good move. He could have taken black's pawn, but he protected his own instead. And black does the same thing. This is what we call the 4 knights opening. It's a very old opening, and well, you can probably guess why it's called the 4 knights. The 4 knights just come out very quickly, and this is a good example of a fight for the center. White has moved the pawn into the center. These 4 squares are the center of the board, and attacks the pawn in the center. These knights are backing up and together attacking all the central squares. So the same goes for black. The knights are attacking every single central square, and then he has a pawn there and attacking one more. So there's a huge center activity, which is pretty good, because usually if you control or have more influence on in the center, that means that it will be easier for you to, for example, get to all sides of the board, and usually also have more space for your pieces. So let's see, the knight takes, but it's protected, and that is not good for the knight. Okay, the nice thing is that now another pawn comes to the center, attacks the knight should move away. He moved away, but he moved away to a square that's not safe, and where it was taken. Alright, now black is not in that great shape. You see white is now controlling the center, 2 pawns. These pawns are attacking all these squares. The bishop is attacking the square, the knight is aiming at. And then the other thing is that this bishop is attacking this weak spot where only the black king defends. And black does a good thing strategically moving this bishop out, but he moves it to a square where these 2 pawns can form sort of battery to fork a bishop and knight. White finds the only defense, which is pinning the pawn to the queen. And white finds a very good move, castling the king away. And now this fork will gain white a piece, a bishop or knight for a pawn. Also this rook is ready to come to this file. Good move by black, castling, and alright, here black should take with the queen, because you want to try to keep these pawns as a shield right in front of your king. When you take with a pawn, you open up all the space in front of the king, and that makes this king a lot more vulnerable, and I think white probably pretty quickly is going to exploit that. This knight first moves out here. Well, maybe he wants to trade the bishop, attack the bishop, chase the bishop, and now he suddenly switches side to the black king. Good move, queen check, king moves over. This is a very strong move. He withdraws the bishop to this diagonal where he's attacking this pawn in front of the king. Now the king is still protecting it, but white adds one more attacker, namely the queen. That pawn has no more defense. And okay, there is a way for black to play this, but it's not an easy way. It's not a way he found. The only way is for black to move this rook out and move this rook up and use this rook to protect that pawn. If he doesn't, like he didn't, then the queen could actually now move in immediately to form a battery and force a checkmate. White first took care of his knight. Black actually did play this rook defensive move, but after queen f5 he didn't see how he could use his rook to protect this pawn, and when he doesn't, it's checkmate. Alright, pretty good game by Binda Boy. Jeshan got into trouble, defended well for a little while, and then it was over. Let me look at the standings. So after 3 rounds, Bridgeport is up by 10-8, which means that the round ended in a 3-3 tie, because Bridgeport was up by 7-5. So it's actually very close still. The players that won all 3 games, we have Nighttime for Hartford, Lucky, Bindaboy, and O'Donoghue for Bridgeport have won all 3 games. Well, it's far from over. Bridgeport is in a decent lead, but one game could flip that and get Hartford back into a tie. Let's see what the next round will bring. The next round will start in about 9 minutes. I'm taking a little break from talking and I'll be right back with you. Welcome back to the fourth round in the scrimmage between the Hartford and Bridgeport Libraries. This is the first time they are facing off against each other. We have 7 players of each team, 7 young players who play a battle, and there will be 6 rounds. A total of 36 points can be gained. So far it's a very close match. Bridgeport is leading by 10-8, and we're halfway. The next round is going to start in a minute, and then we're going to look at some of those games. So far it's been a good battle, and with 4 players still having won all their games. Let's see, here we have our first one. O'Donoghue is trying a similar attack we've seen before, where the queen came out early to attack this pawn. Nighttime protected the pawn and now starts chasing this queen. This queen moves away and wants to still line up with this f7 pawn, and now I see why he played c3, because he wants to stop this knight from coming to d4. That's pretty clever. Now the bishop is opening up. Will he play h3? He does. O'Donoghue is in his preparation, as we say. He has been planning the setup ahead of time, and he really wants to keep the queen there, which is a very interesting idea, because this queen is dangerous to this knight. I think what he will want to do is move this bishop there and then try to chase the knight. Well, that plan has been stopped. Black moved this pawn out. Now he might take with his queen, and if the queens come off the board, O'Donoghue's plan of checkmating on f7 are history. So I quite like both O'Donoghue's plan. It's very clever, but I also like Black's defense. He really I think he saw what was coming. So now Black is sort of taking over the attack. The pawn attacks the queen. Black has 2 knights out that are looking at the middle. I think White wants to get his bishop here, protected by the pawn. Okay, we have a little problem on g7. That's something Black missed for sure, because that attacks the knight and the rook. And there's not really a way to defend both at the same time. He missed it. And let's see if Black castles. Maybe he'll take en passant. When a pawn moves 2 squares next to an enemy pawn, you get 1 chance to take it as if it only moved 1 square. So Black on the next turn could do that. He did it. We actually discussed this rule at the class before this match, where I was teaching the Hartford kids. And looks like Nighttime certainly was paying attention. Now this pawn is still under attack, and okay, White missed it. So the move he played is the second best move. He recaptured the pawn. The queen is safe from the bishop. There could be a queen trade again. Black doesn't have to do it. I think Black can just castle. Yep, there he goes. Good move. White should really start thinking about getting the queens off the board, because all his other pieces are doing not much yet, and this king is now on an open file where the rook gets access to attacking the white king, and the black king is very safe. So White's plan was pretty dangerous, trying to use his queen and bishop to go after this f7 pawn, but Black has defended extremely well. And now it's time for White to play defense, and he should be thinking about getting the queens off the board, because when the queen's off the board, this king is instantly a lot safer. Okay, he chooses something that's not so bad. He is developing the bishop, using the knight to block, maybe getting ready to castle. I don't know, Black could... Okay, he traded queens. The pawn has to take back. I would be looking at getting this knight in to create a fork or double attack on the bishop and the pawn. That is going to be a bit problematic for white. If black finds that move, it's not an easy move. This is a very close battle so far. Okay, black decides to move this pawn up. So this file is open for the rook, but this pawn on g6 is extremely solid, protected by two other pawns. So it is a very solid move for the black king. It's also not that easy for white to move his pieces, because especially this knight, well, it has one square, which is probably where it should go. Maybe he moves the bishop first, but there's only one easy way to get the knight into a more active position, and that is that way. Alright, so white uses that half-open g-file. So both players are really in tune with each other. White was trying to do something which black spotted, and black defended against it. And then black already defending against something white might do before it even happened. In chess actually is a word for that. It's called prophylaxis. Black defended against a plan that white might have in the future, and already stopped it in its tracks before it could even happen. That's usually a sign of a player with a lot of promise. And black did capture this pawn, which was a good move, and he should, well, I'm not sure, maybe bring the rook over. Still like this knight e5 move. I don't think it's going to be easy for black at all. Oh, this is a risky move. He is attacking the rook, but setting up a pin or skewer. Actually, I'm not sure what we would call that. And there's only... Is there a way out? Yes, there's a check. The king has to move because the knight is pinned. And then... I guess that's bishop f5. Okay, now there's a very narrow path for black to save both his bishops, because they're both under attack. So bishop f5 would work, because when the... Oh no, actually it doesn't work. So this is getting a little tricky now. Maybe you might have to give up the rook to minimize the damage. Okay, this move is interesting, but white could take and then take. He chose the wrong way now, because now the black bishop can take the bishop, and this actually creates some issues for white, because this bishop is a bit of a nail in the coffin. This bishop blocks this pawn, it protects these escape squares for the king, and with this pawn unable to move, these pieces cannot come out this way. So this is getting a little dangerous for the king. He finds the only way for the knight to come out, but it still needs a few squares to get into a better position. If black can find a way to increase the pressure on the white king, I would probably just play rook d8, get the rook to the file of the white king. It's not easy. It's a tough battle, where white is definitely on the defensive and black is on the offensive. But everything is still possible. This move is I really like. It's attacking this pawn. If the pawn moves up, the knight could come out and actually start threatening mate, which would certainly increase the danger for white's king. The rook comes out to h4. What is he trying to do? I'm not sure. This knight moves in. He's threatening mate and he's attacking the rook. So now it's alarm phase number 1, or alarm phase red for white, because okay, mate in 1. Will nighttime find? He does find mate in 1. Okay, this was a very impressive game by nighttime. Also by Dodonio. He had some very good plans in the beginning, and it took some very good play by nighttime to thwart white's plans. And here we go. Excellent game. Who is still playing? We have this game. That's the same game. Is this the only game? No. We also have White Zul against Jezion. Chess Club Junior against Bindaboy, and that is it. Okay, let's take a quick speak. This just started, so I'm not sure what's going on there. So let's follow Jazine against White Zool. Jazine is a Hartford player. White Zool is a Bridgeport player. A bunch of stuff is happening. Looks like White is about to get checkmated. Oh, he is. Okay. Alright. Let's see. Is this game that just started still part of the tournament? Or is it already a new round? What is going on? It looks like Hartford is making a bit of a comeback. So how many points should be in there? 26. Oh, okay, let's wait and see. Let's take a quick look at it. The Knight Prophet had a quick victory against Knight Vito. Checkmate on the back rank with the Queen and the Bishop. And let's just go back to this game. It's the only game between Hartford and Bridgeport players I can see. It just started, so maybe they just started their game late. Chess Club Junior is a Hartford player and Binda Boy is a Bridgeport player. And Chess Club Junior so far has half a point, and Binda Boy won all his games. So it's certainly a game where probably Binda Boy is the favorite to win. But then again, a favorite could be a nice thing, but it doesn't give you any points. Black just moved out a bishop to attack the queen, and the knight is protecting the bishop. The pawn blocks. That's good for the queen because now the bishop has to move, but he cannot castle to this square because of the black bishop. So this bishop should move, and then white should really consider taking this bishop so his king can castle. Let's see if he does that. Well, at least take the bishop. This bishop is pretty annoying for the white king. This knight is on the edge of the board, which is where it's about operating at half its strength, because only looking at 4 squares. So it would be strategically a good moment for the knight to trade itself against the bishop. Now, the fact that he doesn't do it yet doesn't mean he can still do it, because it's not that easy for the black bishop to run away from the knight. If he tries that, then the pawns could chase it back to a square where the knight could take it. So not doing it doesn't mean that white loses the option to do it. For black, I might consider just moving this knight and seeing if white spots the discovered attack by the bishop. Another thing I would think about is moving this pawn up so the bishop can drop back all the way to a7 from where it still has great influence over this diagonal without the knight being able to take it. Okay, so that's what happens. In a way, this is a bit of a positional threat, and black should do it now because then the bishop is safe. Well, he does this immediately and white plays instantly, which was not a great idea because this pawn is forking these pieces. White had a way out by taking this and then moving the bishop, but now black should take the knight or the bishop. Okay, so black gains 2 points. It's still a bit early to say that this will cost white the game, but it is an indication of what might still come. Yeah, this bishop still has to be eliminated. It's really annoying for the white king. The king sort of needs to castle and get behind these 2 pawns to be more safe. Alright, here we go. Black moves the knight and opens the attack on the white knight. Well, this is maybe the last time for the white knight to take that bishop. He does not. He creates an attack on the bishop with the pawn, but the pawn could be taken. Still, it's a pretty good battle for this bishop and this knight. And Black so far is winning that battle. He withdraws the bishop all the way, so the bishop is safe. Now the pawn is attacking the knight, so maybe he will recapture, and then he is still looking to take that knight. Also, this knight is attacking this pawn, which is unprotected, so Black has quite a few good moves at his disposal, and I think this could be a time where he can just take this knight. Queens might be traded, but Black should not be afraid of that. On the other hand, White has not really seen that this is under attack yet, so maybe Black can just take that gamble and do other things first. In the meantime, I see the score being updated and reflect that Hartford has closed the deficit to 1 point. But I think there's still more games that need to be included. Probably this is one of them. Okay, so Black did take the knight, and White moved this knight into a pretty aggressive spot. So now with Black, I would be a little nervous about these pieces getting very close to my king, and I might be looking to just trade queens. On the other hand, I don't really see how this queen could actually join the attack on the Black king, so maybe you don't have to do that. Instead, Black is moving this knight in. Okay, I think that makes sense. Now this knight could jump here, attacking the rook and the pawn, and that's what he does. This rook will have to move, and he's attacking the queen. It's a pretty good move, actually. Uh-oh, he took with the wrong piece, and now he's losing the queen. But Black should recapture it with a rook, and this rook is then threatening to come down and trap the white king. So if Black gets to play rook d1 check, the white queen will have to give itself back. Now this is a good idea, except that the bishop is attacking the queen. Now if Black doesn't see that, his king could get into trouble. But Black does see that, the white king will be in trouble. So a bit of a critical moment. Good moves are rook check, which still leaves the capture of the queen on the board, and bishop takes queen. Okay, there goes one. He could also take this rook, actually. Aha. Well, I like the idea, bringing the other rook into the game as well. But if this queen now comes out to a7 or take a3, this might actually flip the game around a little bit. If this queen finds its way close to the Black king, that could be a big problem. Queen e7 would be devastating. This is almost devastating, but the king can still run. That's a very dangerous move. Now there's a discovered double attack, and that will, well, it's not checkmate yet, but very, very close. This is a very dangerous move, moving the king to the same diagonal as the white queen. Very tricky, not easy to see all the tactics. A lot is going on. Okay, so this gives Black an option to step in between the king and the queen, backed up by the knight, which would not flip the game yet. If White finds queen b7 to c8, he would be almost winning. Alright, now the knight could be taken by the bishop. The Black king is still in great danger on this back rank, the 8th rank. If the white queen finds a way to get there, it would be almost checkmate. So for example, like this would end the game, like that would also end the game. So Black really needs to find some good moves. Actually, queen takes pawn would be, that's a good idea for the queen, but a golden opportunity for the Black pawn, and that is that. Okay, with the queen gone, Black is completely out of danger. There's just no way these two pieces are going to trap the black king into a checkmating net, and black should win this game. Now he might be able to find a checkmating net with the pieces that he has if he somehow can get this knight to d4 and check. It's very close to mate. On the other hand, he can just grab this pawn and make this pawn a passed pawn and bring it home to a queen. I see white still has one chance. Well, first he should take that. Yep, he did. And that is that white has less than 2 minutes left. That is a serious chance for white to still get a good result. Because if black runs out of time and white has, for example, only one pawn left, he still wins the game on time. Now, if black manages to take everything white has and then run out of time, the game will be a tie. So this is a bit of a race against the clock for black. The sooner he gets a queen, the higher the chance that he'll actually checkmate white before he runs out of time. But the longer that takes, the greater white's chances of survival and maybe even winning are. So this game is far from over. First of all, black did find a fork to win a bishop. White brings back the knight to attack the rook, which should move away, which is what happens. Maybe he'll attack this rook again. I don't know. He could. But white should play pretty quickly whatever he does. Just try to get black using up as much time as possible. Alright, here comes the pawn. 4 more moves. He should probably take this pawn with check. That forces black to make another move with the king. 1 minute 15. 4 more moves to a queen. Once the queen arrives, mate is very close. But he's using a bit of time. Chess Club Junior might escape this one. Now, when I play chess, I play about 40 games a day. I like to play with just 1 minute for the whole game. And when you do that, you know that every move just has to come in instantly. And once you know that, it's not too difficult. But when you start with 10 minutes, then you get used to a certain pace. Like, okay, I have enough time. And then at some point when you're down to 2 minutes, 1 minute, all of a sudden that time is just like disappearing. And then it starts disappearing quickly. You have to break your rhythm of how long you take for each move and start playing very quickly. That is what black needs to do now, because 45 seconds is not a lot of time. White is using a pretty good defense to, hold the pawn. Black should maybe check. When the king moves, he can move in, and then there's a mate in 2. But this is all very tricky. That's 30 seconds. I think the odds are changing in favor of Chess Club Junior. 28-27. Black needs to just start playing instantly. He just needs to make these moves and not care really whether he is losing points or not. He just needs to make moves. And as long as he plays quickly, he can still maybe checkmate. Well, he's ready to get a queen in 2, and then he needs a few more moves to create a checkmate. But in 22 seconds, I don't know. At some point white should throw in a check just to derail black a little bit. This would be a good moment. The next one, maybe pawn to h5. So any check for white is now becoming valuable, because it just takes 10 seconds of the clock off black, and well, there you go, he found it. Now if takes, I would actually move this pawn up, but okay, that's let's say I'm sort of a professional at the fast moving part of the game. Not that I make any money with it, but I've done it so many times in my life. 3.5 seconds to checkmate. What do you think? He might pull it off. He is pulling it off. What? Unbelievable. With 3.2 seconds, he's going to do it. Mate. Wow. That is... Okay, I'm almost speechless. To 3.2 seconds. Unbelievable. Look at that. So I can see how much time the players used. So for queen b4, black used 7.4 seconds. Was left with 3.5. But when he did that, he actually really wanted to create a setup with the black rook to pretty much walk down the board. So at this moment, in those 7 seconds, he had seen the end of the game. The 7 seconds he used was enough for him to see the next 4 moves. White played quickly, and now black executed the plan. Rook to c6, rook to c3. He doesn't even check anymore. He's really just executing the ladder mate with a queen and rook. And the moment he played rook c3, I knew, oh, he's actually going to do it. 0.1 second, 0.1 second, 0.7 seconds. And he has 2.5 seconds left. Alright, this was a highly impressive end of the game. Both players played extremely well. White got as close as he could to a win, and black pulled it out. Unbelievable. Okay, what does that mean for the current standings? After 4 rounds, Bridgeport actually, with that win, kept their 2-point lead. So you see how close this was. 2.5 seconds difference between this being a 12-12 tie and a 13-11 lead for Bridgeport. Suffice to say, this is far from over. I don't think we will really know until the last game, maybe. The next round starts, I believe, in 6 minutes. Let's make sure that is correct. And right now, let's see who has still won all their games. And Nighttime, Lucky 2334, and Bindaboy have won all their games. And Night Vito is still looking to enter the scoreboard. It is impossible for players from both sides to win all their games. At some point they'll play each other, and at that moment, possibly in the last round, we'll see if one of the players manages to win all his games. Let's take a look at White Zool. We just saw the end of this. Let's look at the beginning of this. So Design, Hartford's player is black. White Zool, Bridgeport's player is white. Pawn to h3, king's pawn. Okay, I can sort of tell just by the moves, this is every single chess player has made these moves in their life at some point. I think White Zool has not been playing chess for a long time. Usually it's an interesting idea to try to get rooks into an aggressive stance in the beginning of the game by moving them out, but there's a danger. Rooks are worth 5 points and they can easily get chased by smaller pieces. First, there was a little bit of a chase on this side. This bishop move is actually quite tricky. He's trying to create a discovered attack, which black defends against. He already blocks this diagonal. Okay, that's pretty good. The bishop moves back, and here comes the bishop out. So this d6 move was doing 2 things. It took the angle out of this discovered attack, and at the same time it opened the diagonal for the black bishop to the rook. And there it goes. Instead of taking the bishop back, white tries to trap this bishop. So even though these players have not played chess for a long time, they already have some interesting ideas. Now, that means that the more they play, the better they'll get. There's clearly promise where if you have some good ideas and you're not just being able to string all of them together in the right order, of the right way, that's already good news, because the moment you start doing that, all of a sudden your level will jump up. So just that white sees that this would trap the bishop is actually quite promising. And obviously the fact that black saw that as well is equally promising. He's stopping that from happening. And now let's see what other kind of good ideas they can come up with. Okay, the queen attacks the knight. The knight attacks the queen, sorry. Queen moves away. Okay, so now these two are looking at this square. But there's still a knight and a king defending. So right now, it doesn't work yet. Now this idea is very good, because he is using his queen and knight to attack. But white just move the pawn to attack the queen. So the idea is good, but he should first make sure his queen is safe. And now white's idea of moving this bishop is very good, because he stops this queen from coming down and checkmating. But he could actually have taken the queen to stop that as well. But you see, even though this is not the best move, it's still clear that it's being played with an idea. The idea is to stop a checkmate. Now black does see that the queen was under attack, and he moves the queen to safety. And white starts aiming at this pawn, which is also shows some interesting ideas. Okay, so this knight move isn't dangerous to the black king, but the black pawn could attack. And he moves back, and this is almost checkmate. Actually, what would have been checkmate is queen down to f1. I suppose the moment black played this, the white bishop should have retreated. Okay, almost checkmate, except the knight can still take it. So now he brings a rook and tries to use that piece to attack. The queen's off the board. Now the rooks go into the attack. We just take a look at because the right next one should start very soon. And here eventually white got another queen. And checkmate. Okay. I see some games starting. So let's pull them up. Also want to keep track who I have not seen yet. I think I've looked at games by almost everyone at some point. Yeah, at some point I've looked at games by everyone. They're starting as we speak, one by one. Let's see if Nighttime has won all his games, and he's playing at Binda Boy, who has won all his games. So now we have two players who have won all their games facing each other. So this should be a pretty tough battle. And it starts out with the 4 knights opening. King's pawn in the middle, and okay, so this is now the second time I see Binda Boy play this. So first I said, well, it's a mistake to give away 2 points like that. Now I'm starting to think he actually does it on purpose, which is a very interesting concept. So white gives up a knight for a pawn, but in return he gets these 2 pawns who start becoming big aggressors and kicking around black's knights. And it's already paying off, because now this knight is under attack. If the knight moves away, the queen can take the other knight. So okay, so this is all just planning by Binda Boy. Well, which makes me, well, I wasn't surprised he won all those games, but certainly makes me believe that it's not an accident. Very interesting opening concept. This move is very dangerous, but the knight is hanging, which is not good for the knight. If white sees it, he's in good shape. If he doesn't see it, he could be checkmated, or maybe he's going to try to defend f2. But he can take the knight. Which doesn't mean his king is out of the woods. Actually, he does see it. He should castle and get this rook to the open file. That would increase the pressure on the white king. And he does. He's just ready to play rook e8 check next. White, this could be a decent move. Maybe just bishop e3 to make sure this king has protection already. Yeah, bishop e3 or maybe bishop e2. Because that king needs to get castled. So this move is pretty good to put it on his diagonal. But now this king is in check. And he should use the other bishop to block that attack. Actually, there's d5 in the position. I just spotted it. d5 attacks the bishop. And there's a discovered attack. Aha, Binda boy actually might have seen that. He uses his bishop to block the check. Very good. Very good move. It's the only good move in the position. Well, black should still move this pawn and make this queen move somewhere. It's not that many good moves, actually. It doesn't really matter whether he moves it here or here. The most important thing is that the bishop attacks the queen. And the queen has to move away. The queen is protecting this pawn. Uh-oh. Well, just as I said it, I have a feeling Binda boy might be the one to get to a 5 out of 5 if he finds this. And there's even worse news for black. He actually spent 11 seconds playing that move. I think he saw it immediately, but he still spent some time making sure that nothing bad was going to happen. So yeah, now Binda boy is a very heavy favorite to win this game. All the other games have started as well, so I'll move to another game. Let me first pull them up and see what I have. Also, this gives me a better chance of following what is going on with these standings. So I should have 6 games, which I do. Actually, yes. Who else has perfect scores? Lucky has a perfect score. Who is he playing in this round? I'm not sure. I don't see him as of yet. Okay, maybe I can't see him. Then let's pick another game. Well, maybe we'll stick with this one. Javius of Hartford against Whitezul of Bridgeport. Well, I see black has no queen, white has a queen, and just created a discovered check by moving the knight away. The black king is in huge danger. This black king has to move. If white finds this pawn moving up, creating this battery between the bishop and queen, threatening mate, it will be game over. There's not really much black can do against that. Okay, white decides, you know what, let me just grab some more stuff, which is not bad, although he doesn't really need it. Okay, black moves his bishop out, attacks the queen, but the queen can take it, or the pawn can take it. Yeah, Javius is a heavy favorite to win, as long as he doesn't stalemate. I don't think he will, because well, first of all, there's a checkmate in 1, and there's various ways to checkmate as well. So even if he doesn't find it immediately, I think he will get there. So let's just go to the next game. Jesian of Hartford playing against Donahue of Bridgeport. Donahue was on a perfect score until the last round. And he is under some pressure here. He lost his queen. And I see a queen pinning the knight close to the king. A white rook as well. We're very close to checkmate, actually. The only move I see is bishop back to protect this knight. Everything else looks like it's made in 2. But there's other problems. Maybe actually bishop out, queen here is also made in 2. So quite a bit of trouble. It's not that easy to find, but The problem for black is that it's not the only good move. This is also a pretty good move. Now he's ready to jump in. For example, eliminate this bishop from the protection of the knight. Maybe he wants the rook to come here. It's protected by the knight. Black is under a lot of pressure. He needs a bit of luck to get out of that one. Let's look at Esteban Kotla with white of Bridgeport against Jason 7 with black of Hartford. Pretty nice game actually. There's some planning going along by black. Black is piling up on this f2 pawn. It's a weak spot, and white is defending successfully. He's bringing his knight back, so now he still has enough defenders, and it's up to black to try to increase the pressure, which is not that easy anymore because these three pieces are very aggressive as it is. If I would be black, I would probably castle and try to break open the center files, because if these pawns disappear, then the black rook might be able to come in on this file. Now this move would be good if white would not have enough defense, and white does. So this is should not work for black. Black can keep taking, but so can white. And in the end, white should be up some material and have a safe king. Okay, so black says, well, I guess I should keep my queen and check. Now the bishop can block. And the knight is still under attack, so black needs to play some good moves here. Otherwise he could be in bigger and bigger trouble. I actually don't see any good moves. What, queen h5 to protect the knight? Yeah, that's not so easy to find. So Esteban is so far in good shape. If he now takes the knight, he'll be in even better shape. At that point, black only has a queen left. And he does find it, and the queen alone is still a dangerous piece, but if white defends well, the queen will have no chance. Let's look at another game. Chess Club Junior, Hartford against G-Bear 931. Bridgeport. Black is up a rook and bishop and a knight and a pawn. So that's pretty good. White has not much left, but he just got this pawn, and this pawn could try to run. Now black could defend, but it's not so easy to see. So white still has some chances. Black is in great shape, but there's a little bit of danger with this pawn on a6, being 2 moves away from turning into a queen. Black still has defense with the rook and the bishop, but if black fails to defend just 1 or 2 moves, then there could be danger. We'll come back to that. Here, okay, this game is almost over. This is the true prophet of Hartford playing against Knight Vito of Bridgeport. I see black can move this pawn up, get a queen with check, and the white king is almost in checkmate. If the queen comes back here, it's actually made in 2, which I think you'll probably find. This queen would also be good. Well, almost any move would be pretty good here. So I think the true prophet will win. Yep, the king will probably move. And now, well, there's a lot of ways to get a checkmate in just a few turns. It's just a question which one he will choose. Alright, the true prophet will wait for the last move. He will find it. This king will choose, and now he will play queen takes d1 checkmate. Okay, so we have first blood, we have second blood, and that actually ties it again. Well, this is a very unusual checkmate on checkmate with a pawn. We just left it here after rook b7. White played bishop e3, which is a pretty good move. And move this rook down, and move this other rook in, and checkmate it with a pawn. that was a rather surprising end of the game, but also a rather good end of the game for black. This pawn is checking. This knight is protecting a square. The bishop is... I mean, that's just a complete overkill in attackers in this position. Black is using all his pieces to create this checkmate. That's an impressive checkmate. We also have another game that just finished. Well, looks like Javis was up a bit of material. In great stalemate danger, for sure. But he got a checkmate. Okay, let's cycle back to the Donahue with black. I just saw the pawn move here against Jezine with white. Now this is a fascinating battle. White has 2 queens, but black has 3 pawns ready to turn into a queen. Usually that doesn't really... they cannot survive against 2 queens, and here there's already 1 gone. So I have a feeling black is not going to survive this. But again, stalemate is very nearby. When black uses these 2 pawns, the chances of checkmate are about as big as chances of stalemate. I don't know if black should just give up the pawns now or maybe move the king. It's not a pleasant choice to make either one, but he should lose these pawns as soon as he can. There he goes. The white queen can take and can take again. I mean, you can also mate in a few moves with the queens, but that's much more tricky. So he will probably eliminate the last black pawn. And then, for example, this is checkmate. Now he just needs to make sure he checks every single turn. Like this would be checkmate, and he starts running the pawn. Alright, stalemate still in the air. White doesn't really need a 3rd queen to checkmate. So the 3rd queen actually just increases the chances of black getting away with a stalemate. Now he needs to check every single turn. Okay, it's a good strategy to block it in, but... And there it is. Stalemate. This queen move took away the last safe square for the king. It's not a check. All these queens are pretty much taking away all the squares around the king, except the square the king is on. Yeah, basically, this is even a world champion. When he was very young, he did this many times. And at some point, you just learn sort of like the trick to avoid it, or the strategy, or the right way to prevent that. Binda Boy against Nighttime. Wasn't Binda Boy in good shape? Well, he was, and he still is, because he's up a lot of material. A rook, queen, bishop, knight. Pawns are even. Now Binda Boy I've seen play very cautiously with his own king. And this knight move again sort of does that. He is really focused on the danger of the rook. As opposed of the strength of his pieces. Well, I mean, he sees that, but that's not the first thing he thinks about. So that's a good sign for when you play really good players. At some point, you just don't get an attack on an opponent, and the main thing is to prevent an attack. But if these queen and rook start working together, for example, a battery like that, the queen moves here and then moves there, and the rook can come down and checkmate. So there are various ways of white creating a checkmating net around the black king. And I think he will probably checkmate. I don't think Nighttime is down below a minute. He still has a lot of pieces, so stalemate is not really that close. Which means Binda Boy will bring this home. Let's take a look at Esteban against Jay Sean. We also left that in favor of Esteban, and it looks like he is going to checkmate on the next turn. There's a check. The rook will have to block. And all white needs to do is take it with the queen or the bishop. And that's all she wrote. So, it's looking like a pretty close round again. Maybe Bridgeport is slightly ahead. Again, the difference between half a point and a point was very thin. Yep, he found a win. Which means we have this game still going. And I think Bridgeport might be expanding on their lead. Yes, the standings indicate a 3-point lead. And this game is still going, which looks to be another win for Bridgeport. So Bridgeport might actually double their lead going into the last round, which means that the Hartford players will have to pull off a 5-1 win in the last round to equal the score. Okay, Nighttime resigned. I'm guessing because, well, he's going to run out of time in 7.2 seconds. So, let's see, the score is getting updated as we speak. They should be at... Or was this the last round? Hold on. Am I still keeping track of everything? I've seen so many games. 36 points is 6 rounds, so 30. And this is 30. So Bridgeport leads by 3 points. And that means that with 6 more points to play for, Hartford needs to win this last round with 4.5, 1.5 to tie the match. And if they win 5-1, they win the match. Bridgeport just needs to get 2 points. So at this point, they're very heavy favorites. The match is still not over. The next round should start in about 11 minutes. And we'll be back as soon as that round begins for the last round action. We'll see you soon. Welcome back. The last round is about to begin. There was a mistake in the standings before. Bridgeport is up by 5 points, which means that Hartford would need to win this last round with 5.5 to tie the match, and to win all their games to win the match. And we can safely say the odds of either one happening are extremely low. But it's not over yet. Bridgeport still has to get at least 1 point to win the match. And we are going to follow the games as soon as they start, which should be any second. And maybe we'll try to see if Lucky 2334 or Binda Boy managed to get a perfect score. So far, they're the only players who have won all their games, and winning all your games is never easy. The game that's on the screen now is a game by a Bridgeport player, but I think he's just playing for fun against Ramada Supani, and that looks like... Is that an Indonesian flag? I believe so. Maybe Polish? No, Indonesian. So far it's been a very close match until this last round. Last round was won with 4.5 to 1.5 by Bridgeport. Rather convincingly. There was one game where they managed to get stalemated in a lost position, but I think most of the games were won convincingly, and with that they took what is probably a decisive lead. Okay, we have the games starting. I will first try to pull all of them up on my screen so I can follow along and call the results as they are happening. So far 3 of them have started. That means there should be 3 more. There's a 4th one. There is a 5th one. Cycling through them, making sure I've got all. Okay, don't see the 5th one yet, or the 6th one. Let's start with this is going to be a good match. Nighttime 03, who has the highest score on the Hartford side with 4 points, 4 wins and 1 loss, against Lucky 2334, who has won all his games. They started out in a very symmetrical opening. In fact, if you would just put a mirror in the middle of the board, you would get a mirror image, except in a different color. And it's a very solid setup with the bishop right in front of the king, and then there's a little triangle of pawns right in front of that, a rook next to it, a knight. It's a fianchetto setup, which is fianchetto is Italian for flank, where a bishop develops on the flank. So often the bishops develop like that towards the middle, where they're aiming at the middle like this. But if you develop the bishop to the flank, they will actually move to the longest diagonals on the board, as well as being a good shielder or protector for the king. This is a setup I've most often used, both playing with white and with black, and I'm a big fan of that. It also means it's very difficult to get to the enemy king. There's just a lot of it's like a fortress around him. It's very hard to break down. White's last move was pretty good. He was attacking this bishop, but the bishop moved back. It does block the defense of the queen on the pawn, which means that the knight and the bishop could go out and take it. I see one game has ended, which clinches Bridgeport's win. Congratulations, I think. Let's take a look at the beginning. This is Jason 7 for Hartford against Donahue, who is playing for Bridgeport. Well, I can see that Donahue has been using this setup where he tries to use the bishop and queen to attack this f2 pawn, put pressure there. And Jason 7 actually decided that he was going to defend it against already by putting this pawn only one square up, which was a good defense against that. And this is going quite well for white so far. Both castled, very good, out of the open e-file. And this is the first moment where black has a 2-on-1 attack against the pawn, and he should probably move his knight out to open this defense and start an attack on the queen and the bishop. He didn't, and he loses that pawn. Aha, now I see why this game ended very quickly. Here white has 3 ways to recapture, and unfortunately for him he chose the worst way, because when the pawn moves out, this pawn is no longer shielding this king from the front, and can also no longer move up, which means that this queen and bishop can now form a battery on this diagonal to h2 that this pawn cannot block. The pawn could block it, but the queen can just take it. But the pawn can no longer go to g3, it's gone. Which creates a lot of danger, and white has not that many ways to defend against checkmate. In fact, he has only got 2. One of them is to move the rook out of the way so the queen comes down and the king can run. Not a great way, but it works. The other one is move the pawn up, the queen takes, and then use the knight to protect the square. But in a nutshell, when black took this knight, white should probably have recaptured with the knight, which guards this h2 square and also leaves the pawn there, so the pawn could come up to block if need to, and white would be perfectly fine. He could also take with the queen, but then after queen e5 he would still have to block this diagonal with the pawn. But unfortunately for him, he found a way that gave black access to his king, and that was it. So Bridgeport has increased their lead now to 6 points, and only 5 games are still going. Let's see which games are still going. Alright, let's go back to Binder Boy and Lucky 2334, see if they can get a perfect score. This is Hartford's best player so far, Nighttime 03 against Lucky 2334. We just left it. The game is still very close. It's even in material. There's all the pawns are on the board. The kings are very safe. And white now sort of starts maybe a move to try to go at this black pawn shield to open up some files or diagonals towards the black king. Not a bad idea, but it's certainly not a guarantee of success. This game is extremely close, also in time, so I expect this to go to the wire. Let's take a look at Binda Boy, who had a perfect score, but actually is in some trouble in this game. He has lost a queen, and well, black just made sure he doesn't lose his queen. So this could be trouble for Binda Boy. Let's see how that happened. Let's go all the way back. Let's look at it from the beginning. Okay, king spawn, knight out, knight out, knight out, 4 knights. Aha, Binda Boy's specialty. And JV said, well, what you can do, I can do. That is sort of true, but usually doesn't work so well. In this case, white actually is up a knight now. But JV is starting some action against the king. Well, if he would have used his queen, the king would have been very safe. Now he has to be a little bit careful, and maybe this was a mouse slip. Castling would have been very safe. Looks like Binda Boy did not get his straight 6 wins. The game ended in a checkmate right here. Alright, Javius did very well to beat Binda Boy in this last game. And that means that Hartford is pulling a little closer. Now they've closed the gap to 4 points. But there's only, I believe, 3 games left. So let's go back to the fight between the 2 best players for each team. Lucky 2-3-3-4 against Nighttime 03. Well, we left it at pawn to g4, and I was thinking, well, white is trying to maybe open up some files or diagonals. He did, but he did lose that pawn, and now he also lost the e pawn. So white did open up files. The f file is half open for white, the g file is half open for white, but also lost some pawns in the process. So if black makes sure he doesn't get checkmated, black should be in very good shape. So one thing black should look for is actually trading queens. Because if the white queen disappears, the black king instantly becomes very safe. White should try to keep queens on the board no matter what. And try to get this rook into the action. Maybe will he be looking at something like this? Forming a battery on the h file? Well, I mean, he should, because there's not much else he can do. Black could maybe just drop the queen back, and if the queen would stay on g7, it's almost impossible to get checkmated. If you stick 9 points right in front of your king on a dark square, there's no rook who can attack that queen. The bishop cannot do it, only the queen. But if white trades this queen or loses the queen, any attack on the black king is gone. I actually kind of like this move because it stopped this queen from entering on e7. I also like this move, which protects his pawn. Maybe you should be looking at just moving his pawn up, trying to open up this file for this rook as well. So this fight is far from over. In fact, they're both down to 4 minutes. It would not surprise me if it would still be fairly close when both have only like a minute on the clock. And at that point, the volatility or the chances of either playing winning go up. Actually, black's last move is pretty tricky. He's looking to bring this rook down and start some pressure on the h pawn. Okay, white plays a decent move, but the rook should come to h8. At which point white has only one move, which is queen to f4. Okay. Now white should actually switch to the g file to try to go after this g pawn. Maybe rook here, rook there, bishop out of the way. And he can even triple with all the pieces. Now black has a very good move with rook h8, which thwarts the queen entering and forces a rook trade at the very least. Maybe even a queen trade, depending on where the white queen is going. I think I would just actually switch to b4 to keep an eye on this e7 square. But now it's getting very difficult. Black plays a very safe move, but it does mean that you will be in an endgame without queens, down 2 pawns. If I would be black, actually I would probably not even take. I would maybe just drop back. I think black king is fairly safe, even if the queens are on the board. Okay, he takes, and he takes another trade. The rook attacks the bishop, The king should come out, or the bishop should move, or the rook should move out. This rook should be looking at trying to get in. Actually, b6 is a pretty nice move as well. He is probably going to expand with pawn to c5. I like this move. The bishop was not in great shape. He was hitting concrete, and he's now rerouting a little bit, going out of the path of the black rook, and here it comes. So if white takes, these pawns are now, they're beautifully connected, and they can try to come up as a phalanx. So this pawn should come next. The king can come, and these pawns can just start moving down as a phalanx of pawns, and a rook and a bishop will not be able to stop these pawns. Okay, take back with this pawn, very good. The pawns stay one unit. This pawn can be taken. You can also move the rook back if need to, if need be. Okay, Lucky 2-3-3-4 is explaining extremely well, and soon white will have to think about stalemate as his only chance. He should try to keep his bishop and rook on the board for a little bit, and when these pawns get really close, he should be looking for a way to lose them quickly, and hopefully Lucky will be down on time. But I think Lucky is not going to allow that based on his game so far. He is a very heavy favorite to actually win his last game as well and keep his clean sheet. So far, it might be the best game of the tournament thus far. Let's see if white can find any sort of tricks. I like black's last move. He's just saying, come take me and bring my pawn closer. I like white's move as well, just getting out of the way. Okay, he is looking to come down with the rook, no doubt, and pin the bishop. And he defends, very good. The king moves away from the first rank. He should probably move up or sideways. Okay, good move. Maybe he's going to bring the rook in, maybe to b2, trying to get there. There are some checkmating patterns slowly arising with the help of these pawns. This king might get into some hot water, but okay, it's not like white can do anything. Maybe he gets a chance to Alright, this is a very, very strong move. What he's doing is he actually is pinning the bishop to the rook, and he is immobilizing them. He's making them very passive. Now the rook could move and the bishop can still move up, but the rooks would get traded and the pawns would just run. So what Lucky 2-3-3-4 is doing is pretty much shutting down any counterplay white has. So the only question, I believe, will become time. Will he have enough time? Well, last time it was Binder Boy checkmating in 3 seconds. So not Lucky, but I actually have little doubt Lucky will pull this one through. Every single move has been good so far, which is usually a good indication of the moves that are going to come next. The pawn will probably run, and if the bishop takes it, he will just take the rook. Well, black should take it at this point. I would take it and lose the rook, and then immediately try to get rid of this pawn, and then I would give up my bishop. So white should try to lose everything he has now. His only chance is a stalemate. And he's thinking, do I see a way out of this? I'm afraid he does not have a way out of it. He can try rook here, but in the long term, that's not going to help. Yep, he plays that move, because there's just too many black pawns still on the board. Yep, he gets the queen. White will take it, black will take back. So now his defenses are down to a bishop and a pawn. Probably black is now just going to use the next one in line to come down, when the white bishop will have to give itself up for that. And slowly but surely white's defenses are being stripped away. Okay, attacking the bishop, which he should probably save for now, keep on the board. It's still not that easy to get pawns past this king, but with the help of all the pieces, there's not really much white should be able to do against. I think he's going to take this pawn, which is not really necessary. It just increases white's chances for stalemate. Not that I think black will actually allow that, but still. White should probably play a few more moves, holding with his king, and at some point just give up the bishop. And hope for stalemate. Well, if anything, he should play very quickly. He's down to 18 seconds. Okay, so I expect a resignation, and there it is. So, Lucky won all his games. I think all the games should be over. Let's take a look at the standings. They have not been completely updated yet. 19.5, 15.5. There comes the 6th win, moving Bridgeport to 20.5 against 15.5. And that is the final score, I believe. 36 points in total. Yep. So, the first scrimmage between Bridgeport and Hartford Libraries ends in a victory by Bridgeport with 20.5 against 15.5. One player won all his games. Lucky 2, 3, 3, 4. You could say he got lucky, but actually I've seen the games. I don't think there was much luck involved. He is a very good player. But it's clear that on the Hartford side we also have good promise. And you can sort of see in the standings which players have played the longest and which players have not played that long yet. Like I said in the beginning, I believe that in a couple of years, some of these players will be the leading chess players in Connecticut, based on how much chess they play several times a week. It's inevitable. They'll get better and better. They're all still young, and at some point they will not only be the best junior players or the best at our library, they will also be the best players in their state. And if you keep going, well, who knows? Who knows where it ends? I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you to the Hartford and Bridgeport Libraries for having these programs. Thank you to Boundless for supporting the Hartford Public Library program. Dick USA, who is teaching both these programs. And thank you most of all to the players for a great battle. And better luck next time. Well, maybe not for Lucky 2, 3, 3, 4, but for everyone involved. I'm signing off. Good continuation of your weekend, and see you next week.